continuing this series of our interesting presentations. I'd like to pass the floor to my good colleague, Professor Marc-Antoine Dilhac. Marc-Antoine is one of the most well-known experts in the area of ethics and regulation of artificial intelligence. We work together in the Council of Europe. He is consultant of the Council of Europe. He's the author of a number of studies and papers. Marc-Antoine is the professor of the philosophical department of Montreal University. He does a lot to develop artificial intelligence, not only in Canada, but also in Europe.
I just wanted to know that it's a great pleasure to meet you once again. I just gave some more information about you. I specifically mentioned the great work that you do for AI access, ethics and AI regulation, not only in Canada, but in Council of Europe. It's a real pleasure to see you here. So I'm happy to pass the floor to you. The floor is yours now.
Well, it's my pleasure, Andrei. Well, we've done a tremendous work, I think, at the Council of Europe. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I will speak as for once as a professor of philosophy and AI ethics. So maybe my presentation will be more abstract, but I will relate to very concrete issues. Okay, so let me share my screen. Can you see it? Yes, perfect.
Just a second. I'm not sure that we see it's on air. Yes, it is now. Great.
It is? Okay. Okay. Good. So, first of all, AI is one of the most amazing achievements of human technology. It's a wonderful tool that performs cognitive tasks automatically and extends our brain to discover new molecules, vaccines, patterns in climate change, etc. But while it grows and invades our lives, so does anxiety. And it is not clear why it is the case. Why is there more concern about AI than, let's say, power, electricity, or the use of cranes for construction? Why are we more concerned about the ethical and societal impact of AI than we are about technical reliability issues, for instance? So is it the case that, well, AI is riskier or a riskier technology than the atom? Should we worry about a Fukushima accident happening because of AI? It's difficult question, but unfortunately, I would say yes. And in some ways, it could be far more dangerous than the atom because of the magnitudes of AI impact on entire populations, and also because of the violent social reaction its development could trigger. So I try to make some arguments in support of this statement, this claim, but I will also defend the idea that as risky as it is, AI is key to human progress in the coming decades if we understand the basic ethical human needs. So I won't list all the pressing issues related to the AI developments, but I will offer a brief journey into thinking about AI ethics. Can you tell me if you see my screen?
Yes, we see your screen, but only the first slide.
Okay, that's okay. It was it's part of the presentation. So now I'm going into the presentation after these introductory remarks. So first, I would like to go back in time, and well, we should recall that the rise of algorithms is part of a long history of mechanization of thought. And you'll see the link with social issues raised by the development of AI. Well, among philosophers, we agree that it started in the 17th century with philosophers like Hobbes, Pascal, and Leibniz. And the key idea was to set up a procedure combining symbols or characters according to logical rules that could think for us. And this is very important to note. So Leibniz, for instance, called this blind thinking, cognitio caeca. And I think it's enough philosophy to understand from the outset the problem which the development of AI amplifies to an unprecedented level. And what is this problem? Well, basically, we reduce thinking to a set of procedures and delegate active thinking to machines. So by its very definition, thinking machines, and even more so AI systems, AI machines, are black boxes. Or we could say they are blind boxes. And actually, if intelligent boxes perform blind thinking, well, they're obviously opaque to us. Is it a problem in itself? Well, in my opinion, it's not a problem, but it becomes a problem when intelligent boxes make decisions that impact our lives. So it seems that if we define intelligent machines as black boxes or blind boxes, well, it seems that the problem with AI lies in the lack of explainability or explicability. Of course, we would like to be able to understand how an algorithm comes up with certain results, as if we were doing the calculation ourselves. But as I said, we have created algorithms to think for us, accepting to be blind and not to do all the calculations ourselves. In addition to that remark, we should note that algorithms are not exactly black boxes. Computer scientists understand how they work, but sometimes they cannot predict the outcomes of the data processing. Moreover, I would like to add that while AI systems are not completely opaque to us, well, human reasoning is most often a black box to us. So I don't think explainability is the main issue with AI. When I first drafted the Montreal Declaration for Responsible Development of AI, well, I was careful not to use the term explicability or explainability, but rather intelligibility, justifiability. I don't think we should aim to meet a strict principle of explicability, even if it would be, if it was, well, technically feasible. But I do believe it is crucial for developers and deployers of algorithms to be able to justify, in social terms, the results of the algorithms, the AI system, in terms of the goals for which they were designed. And this is why I think impact assessments, ex post impact assessments, are so important in AI governance. For instance, even if we can't explain an outcome, we can assess it. Even if we don't know exactly why a group of individuals is excluded from insurance coverage, for instance, we are able to identify this as a discrimination and then try to revise, to tweak the AI system to mitigate or eliminate the discrimination. But doing so requires a human intervention. And I think it's the main ethical and social issue, specifically with AI. AI consists of blind thinking, I said. That is something which acts without will and can make social choices without human intervention. The problem is not AI per se, which is, just a tool, but the problem is with AI systems embedded in opaque, bureaucratic, administrative procedures for which, well, no one is responsible and which no one can question or protest against. Again, we are mistaken when we think of explicability as the main issue. And I think we misinterpret the facts that people distrust algorithmic decision-making while they tend to trust human judgment, even when they don't understand it. Actually, people are not more forgiving of humans than of AI systems. But the difference between AI systems and human beings is that we can hold the latter accountable, responsible, and not the former. If the machine produces results that do not meet the intended goals, well, we must hold not the AI system, but the developers or the deployers, and sometimes the end users accountable for its use or deployment or development. For instance, the developer should have an obligation to revise the algorithm or database used if the algorithm produces bad results, bad outcomes. And the deployers must discontinue use of the AI system until and only until it is fixed. So there is an urgent need to define an ethical and legal framework of responsibility, of liability for the use of AI. And I must mention the work of the Council of Europe to put in place a liability framework. And I believe that this success will be its greatest success, even if the states do not agree on specific public policy orientations or guidelines. But if we fail to put in place an effective accountability or liability framework, the social consequence could be very damaging. And this is why I said that it could be worse than atom technology. The history of industrialization teaches us that when a technology is not adopted by the population usually try to end the use of this technology and protest, sometimes with violence, against its deployment. Think of the riots against the use of mechanical looms in Europe in the 16th century, or against machines during the first industrialization. And sometimes it led to bloody revolutions, as we all know. And no one captured the lack of responsibility as well, better than Steinbeck, the novelist, in The Grape of Wrath. And there is this moment in the book when farmers are forced to use machines, tractors, or to leave the land. And a tractor arrives on the property of a farmer who is being evicted from his land, and he wants to resist, and he threatens the driver. But the driver, well, tells him that he's not responsible, and that if he kills him, another one will come, and that there is nothing to be done against the changing times. So the farmer asks him, who gave you orders? And you can see the quotes on the slides. Who gave you orders? I go after him. He's the one to kill. But the other ones say, well, you know, it's the bank, and the bank takes its order from the east. And, you know, it's the whole story. But the farmer gets really angry and asks, but where does it stop? Who can we shoot? And the driver goes, well, maybe there is nobody to shoot. Well, confronted with AI used by institutions such as the police, courts, etc., we're in the same situation as those farmers during the Great Depression. No one is responsible, there's nobody to shoot, and unfortunately, we know that angry people always find someone to shoot. So we should have, well, we should be very, very careful. But people don't only complain about the lack of accountability and the loss of human control of AI, but they question the very relevance of AI. And I think there is a gap in perception, the perception of the value of AI between the general public and academia or governments. Well, for the latter, AI provides solutions to a variety of problems, such as climate change, treatment of diseases, or traffic, street traffic. But for the public, the development of AI is not always the relevant answer to their problems. And it is sometimes the right solution to an irrelevant issue. So the public warns us, and we should take it seriously, against technicism and techno-solutionism, which is the tendency to seek technical AI solutions to complex social and political problems that actually requires a variety of strategies rather than a one-dimensional technical approach. We must, therefore, develop comprehensive and a global understanding of human moral needs, ethical needs, and interests to guide the ethical development of AI. And avoid, for instance, the greenwashing or ethics washing the previous speaker told of. The first ethical principle of AI development is the principle of relevance. Of course, in a free society, we cannot forbid an AI project just because it is irrelevant, but we can refrain from validating it, let alone promoting it. But what are the goals that make the development of AI morally and socially not only acceptable, but relevant? Well, many ethicists, including myself, would say that it is human flourishing that should guides technology and the AI development. That is the highest good, the summum bonum. You can see the charts on the slide. I won't comment in detail this chart, obviously, but we can see that the condition for human flourishing depends on ethical and legal rights, respect for autonomy, privacy, but also in large part on human capabilities, meaningful social bonds, political participation, but also stability and sustainability. These conditions are well summarized in the 17 UN SDGs. I'm almost done.
Yes, sorry. We almost ran out of time. Yeah.
Okay, I'm almost done. Just two more ideas. So we can summarize all this with, the risks posed as follows. So first, there is a threat to individuals' rights, to systems stability and efficiency, and to society as a whole, its sustainability and prosperity. I would like to end on a positive note, if you may. Well, AI offers also an opportunity that must be urgently seized for the sustainability of social development. So I would end with this. I have mentioned the negative role of the financial sector in the Steinbeck's excerpt, but currently, the financial sector is playing a leading role in the ecological transition and the social and for the social stability of the society by promoting ESG standards. AI can facilitate reporting to identify good ESG practices and standardize, well, make new standards for the disclosure of companies' ESG performance. To change industrial activities and win the challenge of the ecological transition on a global scale, investment guidance is absolutely crucial. And AI here can help us do this as long as there is a will and a commitment from humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Marc-Antoine. Thank you. As usual, it was a pleasure to hear you. I really sorry that we have so little time to discuss all the ideas, but hope that we could proceed with the discussion with you afterwards. Уважаемые коллеги, большое вам спасибо всем, кто...
Dear colleagues, we thank all those who have attended our discussions today. Now we'll start a very interesting discussion that will be dedicated to one of the most relevant issues. What shall we do with the legal identity of the AI? Pros and cons of rendering the legal identity to the AI. I will yield to Vladimir Averba, who will moderate the discussion. I thank you.